or so it seems. Actually, I invited me here to speak to you today, not about how good life is, but in fact, we are in a very serious situation, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to spoil your day. Everything is so nice, but it's only on the surface. Now, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And does everybody have a handout? 4-page handout. We'll be using that today. Notice at the bottom of each page is my email address, Ideology of Islam. And if you would be so kind or would like to find out anything more about Islam, or if you'd like a copy of this by email attachment so you can send it to other people, please send me an email. I also have an email distribution list. A couple of people here are on it. And you will receive a couple of articles a day from various sources which will shed light on the nature of Islam. So it's a good way to learn about Islam in small doses. And you can read it or not read it as you please, but many people find it very useful. Many people, in fact, send it on to their email groups, and in that way we can spread the word about the truth about Islam. Now today, the topic of my talk is essentially Islam, America, and the Trump administration. And this is extremely important. And all of us were really excited that Republicans won, and won big, really, just a few months ago. And we now have a chance to do something about the Islamic threat. But it's only a chance. And if we don't use that chance, it's the last one probably that we will ever get, because the Democrat Party is completely taken over by the Muslims, and the Republican Party is split on the issue. That is the problem at this time. So Trump has a good gut feeling about Islam. During the campaign, he talked about how Muslims and Islam do not share our values, and therefore they should not be permitted to enter the country as immigrants. People who don't share our values, that's certainly legitimate. But you haven't heard him talk about that lately. And the reason is that he is surrounded by advisors who don't understand what Islam is. They continue to think that Islam is a religion of peace. And for example, you've got the Department of Defense Secretary General Mattis. He thinks that Islam is basically a religion of peace. And General McMaster, in charge of National Security Administration, also talks about Islam as a religion of peace, and that our enemies are ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the gang of violent jihadists. I'm sure you've all heard of Sebastian Gorka, right? He watched Fox News. Well, he too. I heard him speak in person. I've read his book. In fact, I have a review of his book on Amazon.com. If anyone is interested, I'll be happy to send you the link to that review. He started out his talk at David Horowitz Freedom Center last November, where I was present, strutting down the hall, and his stentorian British accent says, "We are not at war with Islam." Well, it got only worse from there. We may not be at war with Islam, but the fact is Islam has been at war with us for 1,400 years. And if we are not at war with them, it means we're not fighting back. Can you imagine during World War II when the Nazis and the Japanese were at war with us, suppose we had sat back and said, well, we're not at war with you guys. We would have lost the war, no question about it. And well, we're losing the war against Islam now for the same reason. We're not fighting back. I want to stress that there are 3 existential threats to our country from Islam. And by the way, I'm sure anyone here have grandchildren? Yes. Great-grandchildren? Fine. Everything I talk about today, please think about the kind of country that you are going to leave to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, because things are changing. And if we don't stop it, they are not going to be living in the kind of America that we're living in today. Even today, we're not living in the America we had a number of years ago. We all grew up in. But the situation is serious. The Islamization of the country is taking place before our eyes. And it could be that a lot of people don't recognize it. It takes some sort of knowledge about Islam to understand what's going on. For example, if you look around your house and you see little termite tracks around the outside, And if you don't know what to look for, it doesn't mean anything to you. But the fact is your house has been invaded, and one of these days it's going to collapse unless you take action against it. Well, that's what's going on with Islam in our country. The termite tracks are there for anyone to see, but you have to know what to look for. And then I'm going to be talking today about some of the things that you want to look for. And what I really want to do today is to activate you. Because it's not enough to come to these nice luncheons and think that there are other meetings and then think that you have actually done something. You haven't. It's very pleasant, but what we need is action, and the kind of action we need is to influence the Republican Party to take a strong stand on Islam, not radical Islam, but on Islam. We'll talk about the difference in a minute. And only the Republican Party can do it. That's why I like speaking to Republicans. The Democrats are lost. They're already in the pockets of the Muslims. But the Republican Party is split, and we have a chance to turn it around. And we can turn it around only if you actually do something about it. If you don't do anything about it, things will go on the way they have been going on, and we're going to lose. And your grandchildren will lose, and your great-grandchildren will lose. So that's what I want to encourage you today, is to become active. Well, what does active mean? It means, for example, contacting your senators and your representative and talk to them about Islam. And not just talk to them, but very specifically urge them that you want them to support the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act. It's been before Congress for over a year. And there are not enough sponsors of that bill, and that's because a lot of Republicans are either afraid to sign on to this Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act, or they really believe that the Muslim Brotherhood is a moderate organization. But that's one of the most important pieces of legislation facing both houses of Congress, and you can be influential about it. And inside the Arizona Republican Party, you can urge the Arizona Republican Party to take a stand on the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act. You can always Google the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act, and you can read it for yourself. It talks about how the Muslim Brotherhood, in fact, is associated with Islamic terrorism. It is the mother of all Sunni Islamic terrorist organizations. And they are conducting a war against us inside this country. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in a moment. So that's the first thing that you can do. There are also what we call action alerts. Action alerts consist of focused email campaigns to particular people. For example, just this last week, there was a couple of items. One was from the San Diego School District, which is now their trustee board was going to have a meeting, and they were going to declare, and they did, they met, and then all 4 trustees voted in favor of this program in the San Diego schools to improve the image of Islam. Why in the world are secular schools determined to improve the image of Islam? This harks back to President Obama's maiden speech to the Muslim world in June of 2009, where he said a lot of disgraceful things, but among the worst was he said he considers it his duty as President of the United States to fight against negative stereotypes of Islam wherever they may appear. And so what is happening to Obama as President, and now the San Diego School District, and by the way, San Diego School District is not alone in this country. There are many schools that do this. They have turned themselves into public relations agents for Islam by saying openly they want to improve the image of Islam. Well, that's not their business. They should be teaching our children reading, writing, and arithmetic, and also civics and patriotism, but they're not doing that. So they're improving the image of Islam. That is the kind of action alert that we need to write to the trustees, send emails to the trustees. Another one is that a Muslim Islamist woman who favors Sharia law, she's a bitter anti-Semite, totally anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, and in every way she favors Sharia law. She is being invited by the City University of New York to give the commencement address. Well, we have an action alert going on to write to the president of the university and to the dean and to the school who invited her to give this commencement, and we need to bombard them with emails telling them who this woman is. Linda Sarsour is her name, and that she should be disinvited. Well, email campaigns can do that if you get enough of them. sometimes you can organize it so that there will be several thousand emails in that person's inbox the next morning, telling them something about Islam that they're doing wrong and that they should do right. That is the power of action alerts, and it will cost you only a couple of moments of your time, no money, but it's powerful. So that's the kind of action I would like to motivate you to do. Take part in the action alerts, and if you want to find out about them, send me an email. You've got my email address at the bottom of your handout. So I would like you to become activists. We must spread the word about the truth about Islam to our fellow citizens. The vast, vast majority haven't the vaguest idea. They think that Islam is a religion of peace, or they think it's a religion like other religions. And I'm going to show you how that is not true. All right, let's return to the three existential threats that our country is facing from Islam. There are three, and ISIS is not one of them. We all hear about ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They are threats, but they are not existential threats. Al-Qaeda murdered about 3,000 Americans 17, even 16 years ago, but that didn't present an existential threat to us. We recovered from that, we became stronger. It was not a threat to our country's existence, despite the fact that it was mass murder. So ISIS can also commit mass murder, but it is not an existential threat. So the three existential threats are: one, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now you all hear about Iran. Nobody talks about its real name, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if you look at their constitution, I don't know that we'll have time today to go into it, but I'll be happy to send you the excerpts from the Constitution, where they advertise to the world that they are going to use their armed forces not only for defense, but for spreading Islam to the rest of the world as part of their ideological mission. And they quote a verse from the Quran to justify that. It's the only country in the world that I know of that says they're going to commit military aggression against the rest of the world in order to spread their religion. But they say that openly in their constitution. Iran is a country, the Islamic Republic of Iran, is a country of about 75 million people. Very strong. They have a lot of educated people. We're educated here in the United States. They are very sophisticated in their use of military weapons of mass destruction, and they are on the road to developing nuclear weapons and missiles, all of these things. They could, for example, explode an electromagnetic pulse bomb way above the United States, which would knock out our electronics for months. Can you imagine what would happen if you had no more electronics? Where would you get your water? Water filtration plants would stop working. The pumps would stop working, and so on. The electricity would stop working. Food delivery, food production, all of it would disappear. Medical services would be knocked out because they're also dependent on computers and electronics. So that electromagnetic pulse bomb is a serious existential threat to us, and that can come from the Islamic Republic of Iran. So that's the first one. That's the kinetic threat. The other two existential threats are the following. One is Muslim immigration. It's part of Islamic doctrine to send Muslims to other parts of the world to establish Muslim communities. They do not assimilate in terms of values. They may integrate in terms of their appearance, some of them, most of them, but they are centered around the mosques, and they will perpetuate the goals of Islam, which, as you will see in a moment from your handout, the goal of Islam is to take over the world and become victorious over all other religions. And so the Muslim communities are increasing. Certainly you've heard about this in Europe, it's happening in the United States, and even President Trump, who has made noises about stopping Muslim immigration, in fact has not stopped it. He's being influenced very much by advisors around him, like the ones I mentioned, who don't want to take action against Islam. And then, of course, there's a lot of holdovers still in his administration from the Obama administration who are promoting Islam outright. So you've got this demographic jihad based on Muslim immigration. By the way, keep this in mind. Immigration without assimilation is invasion. Think about that. Immigration without assimilation is invasion. You're inviting these people, masses of them, into your house, and they do not share your values. In fact, they want to take over the house. That is their value. This is what has happened. Sure, there are Muslims who do integrate and don't want to have Islam take over, but first of all, they are going against Islamic doctrine when they do that, and they will never speak out. Almost never. Because they would be ostracized from their community if they did. And so you've got the Muslim communities and their community organizations, like the Council on American Islamic Relations, which declared to be one of the 60 leading Islamic groups. They will always push Islam and Islamic dominance. And that is why they are against any restriction on Muslim immigration to the United States. Even though, as President Trump has noted in the campaign, that the Muslim immigrants do not share our values. Usually when we talk about Muslim immigration, we're very concerned about terrorists coming in. And, well, I suppose we should be. Imagine, for example, a big bowl of M&Ms, and you know that, say, 5% of them are poisoned. Would you take a handful of them? Nobody would, of course. And this is the way it is essentially with Muslim immigrants, only it's worse, because you never know which ones are going to be terrorists, but some of them will. But terrorism is not the existential threat. The existential threat from Muslim immigration is the fact that they are establishing Muslim communities all over the United States, and it becomes like metastatic tumors. They're spreading. They are coming here as immigrants, and once they establish their communities, they will out-reproduce us. And the result is going to be an increasing Muslim percentage of our population, just like it is in Europe. And when it increases sufficiently, they will begin to exert outsized influence on our policies. They are organized, we are not. And so that's what's so very important. We've already seen this in Europe, where the Muslim community, for example, determined the French president, Hollande, in the last